Hi ho there, it's me, Jordan Peterson, just walking down the streets of Gotham City here. It's a beautiful day, or evening really. The sun's about to set. Oh, let's just go down this dark alley here. And oh dear! Oh God! Batman, why are you beating me up? I know it's you, Two-Face. You can't hide, even with that plastic surgery you've got to your face and the hair plugs. No, Batman, I'm not Two-Face. I'm just poor sweet Jordan Peterson. Jordan B. Peterson, the psychologist. Oh, I see. Oh, why are you still beating me, Batman? In Gotham City, we respect people's pronouns. Welcome to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Ruben Uncut. Today on Ruben Uncut, I figured it was time I looked back in on Jordan Peterson. Why? Because whenever I do anything about Jordan Peterson, my Canadian listenership goes up. That's why. Gotta bring in them Canadians. All right, but if we're here today to check that out. Now, I have not pre-watched this video. There are going to be some who say, "Oh, I should have pre-watched it," but that's not really what I do. I mean, sometimes I've seen videos before I break them down, but today we're going to be doing this. And I was like, let's check it back in on him. And I went to look at his YouTube channel, and it turns out he also does incredibly long podcasts. They're like 2 hours long where he talks to people. And my immediate thought on that was, fuck that. Not only that, but he has like experts on who are probably questionable, but I probably don't know enough to stop them. So I did manage to find a video, though, called Jordan Peterson and the Nobility of the Working Class. Now, I have no problem with the title. I do actually think the working class is a pretty noble section. Although the working class is a nice way to say lower classes of society, because that's who we define as the working class, by the way. Those people who really have to get a real job, if you will, as opposed to, people who work in offices, which, by the way, is still working. And in fairness, some people who work in offices are paid working class wages, but it's still considered, if you're in an office, it's still considered white collar, which has, once again, more to do with class than actually how much money you make in this situation.
That's one of the things that's really characteristic of working class jobs, I think, much more so than more intellectually complicated, abstract jobs.
Okay, so he's defining it as a mental difference between working class and non-working class jobs, which is a little bit dishonest because there are still management positions and, like positions that are working class that require some type of abstract thought.
One of the things you have to be a good person to be around to do well at a working class job. Because the jobs themselves are quite difficult. They're physically strenuous, they're demanding, and the payoff for that...
At least that's honest. I do want to point out that this is him in his Two-Face outfit, his Batman villain costume setup. I don't know where he's going with this, to be honest with the costumes. I mean, kind of like it. Not the costumes, not the outfits themselves, but how weird he's getting with it. I don't know if that's just because he suddenly has like daily wire money to spend, or if, like this is Jordan Peterson's natural effeminate side just coming through in costume play. That being said, every one of his costumes does make him look like some type of Batman villain. I don't know if that's on purpose, but it is ridiculous.
In part can be the camaraderie that emerges as a consequence of the shared enterprise, and that can make those jobs extremely worthwhile. You can make very, very good friends in a working class environment, and it's also
okay. This statement right here of making very good friends, it's technically true. However, I've never been in a blue collar endeavor where where the camaraderie was actually connected to the job. I mean, it was in a way because that's where we met and that's where we bonded. But like the work job where I can think of having the most work friends was a cafeteria. So like our connection and bond there has nothing to do with the actual work we're doing, other than the fact that we just happen to be there.
Class environment, and it's also very frequently the case that those working class environments are characterized by an extremely high level of sophisticated humor, is that they run on like derisive play. And it's one of the things I really liked about the restaurants.
Okay, what he's describing now is the toxic masculine work environment of blue collar shit. I hate it. Hate it. I mean, I can deal with a little bit of it, but honestly, it's like that shit from The Office with Jim. Fuck that shit. If I worked with a Jim, I would probably give him nothing. Like, I'd probably like, you think that's hilarious to mess with your neurodiverse fellow employee over there? Dwight? Think that's funny? You fucking neurotypical dickhead. Yeah, no, I fucking hate Jim from The Office. Hate him. Not likable guy. Piece of shit.
One of the things I really liked about the restaurants, people are always playing tricks.
John Krasinski, not much better.
On each other and making jokes and, you know, and having a kind of dark fun, and everyone was participating in that. And it was certainly the case. I had a lot of working class jobs from the time I was 14 till the time I was about 25, I would say. And it was definitely the case that that ethos of
get the fuck
harsh play. When I worked at this railway crew in northern Saskatchewan in the summer one year, and I was a
okay. I'm very interested to see how he ties this in to nobility. Like what he's literally describing is a type of bonding that occurs because I don't know. I don't get it. It's a thing. It's real, and it pisses me off. Like I hate bonding with people the way that he is describing. I'm not that kind of dude. I'm just not. And like people just like constantly fucking with you. It's annoying as shit. It's not like I don't know if it's because of my weird relationship with sarcasm. If I didn't study theater, I don't know how I would respond to sarcasm right now. I just don't. Because I barely know how to respond to sarcasm now. And this shit is fucking annoying. Yeah, no, I mean, like, okay, so when I worked in the cafeteria, I had one friend who would always make these weird jokes to me, and like, there was a part of me that understood that this was an attempt to like bond with me, and like I was okay with some of it. Like, it started off like during like a summer intake thing where we had to come in early before the school opened and like clean stuff up or get stuff set up. Me and him both fell asleep on a couch, and he made a lot of gay jokes about it, like, "Oh yeah, me and Ruben fell asleep together on the couch or something." And like we just happened to be on the same couch when we were tired, and it just. And I was fine with that joke. I'm okay with that. I'm very secure in my sexuality. I don't need to be bothered by that. He did, but he also, his other running gag with me was he would joke off that I was jerking off to the Holocaust videos, and like it was college, edgy humor was everywhere. So I didn't think too much about it other than the cognitive understanding that like it was a super offensive joke at my expense. And I also didn't like, I'm not gonna lie, I look back on it now, and as a more aware adult, there's a part of me that's like, that was sus as fuck. Sus as fuck. Suspect. It's very suspect. But like I went along with it because, you know, it's a work friend. You want to have a bond because it makes work not suck. And he and he didn't cross any of my personal boundaries. In hindsight, if someone nowadays started trying to get that running gag going with me, I'd probably be like, man, the fuck is wrong with you? But back then in college, I was like, I was watching South Park and The Whitest Kids You Know, and it was a different time. We were more, my generation of millennials was more desensitized to absurdly offensive humor. Um, we, I personally, when I saw offensive humor, would normally get the joke. The joke is it is terrible. And a lot of humor is written from that perspective because the joke is making fun of the thing that's terrible. Not everyone understands that about jokes, and unfortunately, that's on the pro and con side to those types of jokes. Some people are too sensitive about them, and other people take them seriously and think it's funny because it's true, but that's not entirely the joke that's happening there. I'm sorry, I've gone off on a tangent here. My point is that, like, I've had a lot of friends, but honestly, I always feel closer to people who aren't always fucking with me. I mean, no offense to that friend, still a friend as an adult, but like he, I don't. If we didn't have a love of South Park together, I don't know how well that friendship would have gone based off that initial like bonding situation. Also, he didn't. Did he open? When did he bring in the Holocaust jokes? I don't remember. This shit was fucked up. But yeah, so suspect. I should confront him as an adult. Nah, I don't want to. I don't talk to him that much. I hope he's doing okay. I hope he's not as suspect as certain things make me think are questionable. Um anyways, I don't so far I'm very curious how he's going to tie this into nobility, because honestly I just think of that as toxic, obnoxious behavior. And I mean, there's a part of me that also considers that maybe I'm the weirdo, because everybody fucking does this. Like some days it wakes up and it feels like this is just the normal range of humor for people, is to just fuck with each other, and I don't get it. I mean, like, sometimes I have noticed that there are very specific people and personality types that do trigger something in me that bring out a more aggressive, I'm fucking with you attitude towards them. And I actually have no explanation for it. I can think of several key people in my mind who bring this part out of me that is contradictory to my own level of emotional intelligence. I don't understand it. I try with friends who it's important to them that I fuck with them. I try, and sometime and over time I get comfortable with fucking with those people. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I am the weirdo because I don't like being fucked with. Um, let's see. I still don't know how. I don't know how he's going to tie this into nobility, but it'll probably piss me off.
What the hell they call it? A peanut pounder. I think that was my job. I had this thing that looked like a lead tin can
Peanut pounder
on the end of a stick, and I followed this machine that went down the tracks and laid down the plates that rails fit in, and there'd be a hole that was drilled into the plate, and then these things called peanuts held the plate in place so that someone could come along and then spike the plate into place. And the guy in front of me would drop this little wooden dowel, which kind of looked like a peanut, hence the name, into the hole to hold the plate solid, and I would whack it with this lead can on the end of a stick, and that's what I did all day, was just this for like 16 hours out in the hot sun. And I did that for months, and it was an interesting place to begin working at. I write about this a bit in Beyond Order. I believe it's in Beyond Order.
I just want to say Beyond Order sounds like a supervillain's memoir. Like, let's be honest, Beyond Order, it sounds okay. So actually, it sounds like when there's a supervillain, I mean a superhero who like retires and then writes about the time he fucking murdered a human being with his superpowers. Like that's what it sounds like.
Because there was an initiation ceremony that went along with the job. So when I first showed up at
Okay, I understand communally the necessities of uh, these types of social rituals, but I will say the one positive I will say to obnoxious corporate culture is that at some point someone realized, oh, we could just, they're the same thing as icebreakers, except icebreakers aren't degrading. Icebreakers are just the same thing as hazing or initiation rituals, but in a non degrading manner. That's what they are. And they might be boring, but at least, they're not degrading as shit.
On the crew, no one was particularly friendly. It was all men, and they were rough guys. Like a lot of them were native guys from Cree Indian guys from Saskatchewan. A lot of them had been in prison. They were rough guys, and they weren't that friendly.
Places that are swamped with toxic masculinity.
If you were new, and they gave you a rough time. So everybody who came on board and the crew got a stupid nickname. Mine was Howdy Doody, which was this.
Hell yeah. Wait, is he about to explain who Howdy Doody is?
Red-headed freckled puppet with big ears from the 1950s. And
all right, he did it for me, so I didn't have to explain it. Nice. Howdy Doody was dressed like a cowboy. He was on TV. A lot of kids shows used to do like puppets back in the day.
I asked one guy why he called me Howdy Doody, and he said, because you look nothing like him, which I thought was extremely witty answer, a very funny answer.
It sounds like he was being sarcastic. I don't know if Jordan Peterson was at any point a ginger before his hair color changed and he got hair implants. But he doesn't look unlike Howdy Doody. He looks lanky like a puppet. He's got that sort of puppety face. But in fairness, he does. I don't see any freckles, and his hair's not red.
And anyways, it was a bit of a derogatory nickname, and part of it was delivered to see if you.
Although, what I was gonna say, he might be about to explain it, but like the first thought there is it a derogatory nickname entirely? I mean, what are you getting out of that exactly? Like if it's because you look nothing like Howdy Doody, then like normally the being mean to you would be because you look like Howdy Doody would be a more mean reason. That would be more derogatory in a way. Maybe he'll explain it.
You had enough of a sense of humor to accept it without getting all, narcissistically puffed up and irritable about it. And so.
Okay, what? So what I'm getting here is that if I did it in the right way, I could bond with Jordan Peterson while being an absolute ass to him. I could literally, Jordan Peterson is a bitch. Jordan Peterson is a bitch. Now, I'll be clear. I wouldn't fight anybody over Howdy Doody as a nickname. Because it's not bad enough to make it worth the effort. Because the problem with fighting a nickname too much is that's when people really want to stick it on you. If you react too big to the nickname, then suddenly it just never goes away. Frankly, fuck nicknames. No one has ever given me a good nickname. And I'm not just saying that because 90% of everyone I have had 3 nicknames, and I will go in order of most offensive to me to least offensive to me. Nickname, actually, wait, no, 4 nicknames. Sorry. First nickname, most offensive to me, anything related to sandwiches. This is more of a broad category, but the annoying thing about the sandwich one is that the connection is obvious. It's super obvious. So that eventually you get to a certain point in your life and you've heard the joke so many times where like just any humor or meaning has been just scraped out of it. And it's annoying because dumbass non-comedians and actually sometimes comedians will always reach for that most obvious straw to pull. This fucking sandwiches. God damn. Hate it. Second most offensive name to me, Rube. In college, a friend of mine who's a dick, but I love him, started calling me Rube or Rubes. He tried to get it to go to Rubs. And I had to put my foot down on Rubs. And also, no one else liked, fortunately, I don't know if it was the putting my foot down and be like, I'm not going to fucking respond to Rubs. Or if it was the fact that everyone else clicked onto Rubes instead of Rubs. I don't know. Either way, I wasn't standing for Rubs. Rube or Rubes, still hate it. Still hate it. And like I kept being like everybody, I don't want to be called Rubes. A Rube is not a good thing to be. That's like carny talk for a sucker. That's a gullible person. Fuck that and fuck you. I know that's not why you're calling me that. I know you're calling me that because it's literally just my name with the N taken off the end, which, ugh. But fuck you. And like, I don't get mean about it because I don't get mean about it to a certain extent because I can't get fucking mean about it because fucking it's the second most common thing to the fucking sandwich thing. Now, the other nickname I have been given at various points is Ruru. And you know what? Fuck it. Ruru is better than those other names. I don't care that it makes me sound like a teddy bear. You know what? Fuck that. I'm fine with being a teddy bear. Ladies love the teddy bears. Okay? Maybe I even spell it Teddy with an I. And then all the non-binary babes will love that teddy bear too. I don't know if that joke works. Let me know. Non-binary people, please let me know on the Spotify questions if that joke works or not. Fuck. Where was I? Like, I don't mind Ruru. I mean, I prefer my real name, to be honest. But Ruru, I could acceptable. Way better than those other two fucking names. Or category of names. Not everyone calls with the same thing attached to the word sandwich. I've heard all the sandwich jokes, people. It's like telling a hot person that they're hot to try and get them to notice you. Everyone fucking tells the hot person they're hot, you dumbasses. You got to think of something that's not directly their hotness. And if they are upset that you chose something, okay, if they'll either be impressed to hear something they don't just hear from everyone trying to sleep with them, or if they're like, oh, why'd you pick that instead of my hotness? You know they're a narcissist and you can move on.
It got shortened eventually to howdy, which was a lot better because there was kind of a cowboy chic thing going on with that. And
that is better.
Chic thing going on with that, and that was a lot better. And
as someone who's constantly posturing for masculinity, I am not surprised that Jordan Peterson was excited to get a name that had a cowboy chic type of thing to it. In fairness, Howdy Doody was a cowboy puppet. Although it's worth noting that that's also probably a manufactured cowboy chic. Like, do you think people back then actually said howdy, or is that a thing we got from movies? You know, like how pirates now all talk as if they have a slightly bastardized Scottish accent, because in really old Because that was the voice that was given to Long John Silver in a bunch of movies and TV movies. Maybe. Army matey. It's a fucked up Scottish accent. It's a Scottish accent that someone took and they were like, we're fiddling with it. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a real thing, but not all pirates actually talk like that. That's just the way Long John Silver talked.
And but there was this period where you got ribbed a lot. And if you didn't collapse under the weight of the teasing, then, and you did your damn job, and you know, you're reasonably entertaining to be around, then the doors opened and you were now part of the crew.
This is a pro hazing video. He is being pro hazing. Like I said, there's other ways to bond. You can do icebreakers or play board games. You don't need to be a professional piece of shit to each other. I don't know. Maybe I'm the lunatic.
There was one guy there. I wrote about him. Lunch Bucket was his name. That was his nickname. Lunch Bucket. He showed up on the crew with a lunch bucket, and that was a bad idea.
Fucking dickhead.
Bucket. And that was a bad idea. It was obvious that his mom had packed it, and you don't want to show up to a work crew of ex-cons with a lunch bucket that your mom packed.
He is unironically defending. He's unironically defending toxic masculinity with this. This is nothing. Not all working class people have been to prison. I just want to point that out. That I understand that his example just features a lot of people that come from prison. I'm saying I don't know if it's a great example because that's not necessarily analogous to every working class person. And people who've been to prison may be working class, but they're going to have been shaped very, very differently than other fucking working class people. But I fixed it now, so you should hear it better.
Bad look. And so he was called Lunch Bucket from day one. And he was a pretty touchy guy and pretty narcissistic. And people didn't.
Okay. So I'm worried that Jordan Peterson is associating all sensitivity with narcissism. And I don't think that's a healthy association. I think it's okay for people to be sensitive. I think the idea that, I mean, obviously, you still want to be like, you don't want to be so sensitive that you're easily spun into like a very like destructive state. You don't want to be that sensitive, but like the idea that it really feels like he's painting sensitivity into narcissism, and I fucking don't like that. That seems like a problem.
Didn't like him very much, and he was tested a lot, and the testing started out with people just throwing pebbles at him. So
right there, you can't call it testing. You can't call it testing because we get the results the first time. Like after that, what are we testing for? Like you know he's sensitive. You're gonna know he's sensitive right away. Why would you need more tests? It's like saying, "Hey, if we light this bomb, will it go off?" Yeah, test it.
The crew would stretch out about a quarter of a mile across the.
Jordan Peterson is unironically what causes school shootings, is what I'm hearing here.
Line as we were working on the track.
I'm sorry, that's actually not fair. The behavior that he's defending is probably what causes school shootings.
And Lunch Bucket would be doing whatever job he had, and the game was to see if you could bounce a pebble off Lunch Bucket's helmet, and so he'd be working and these pebbles would be flying up.
He is literally laughing at throwing tiny stones at a person. It's absurd. It's a dick move, and it's also a neurotypical move to just expect other people to automatically understand how they should respond to your abuse. Fuck you.
Out of God only knows where, because people didn't make it obvious, and you know it was a score for your mates if you bounced a pebble off Lunch Bucket's helmet, and he did not take to that well. And
no shit. You know why the audience laughs? Because no shit.
The pebbles got larger as the days progressed, and
I understand he has a helmet, but come on. Fuck you.
Eventually, he was driven off. And it was because he didn't subjugate himself properly to the multi-dimensional discipline of the crew, because he wasn't.
Because he wouldn't get on board with our systematic abuse.
He wasn't a good guy to have around. He couldn't take a ribbing. He didn't have a sense of humor. He wasn't able to contribute to the game that was being played socially. Well, these men.
Fuck you.
Were doing what was pretty tedious and difficult work.
Did anyone ever take him aside and be like, hey, man, do you understand that this is an attempt to bond with you and be friendly? Because, like, the cognitive awareness of that has made me try my whole fucking life, okay, to get on board with it. I know that it's important and that people bond this way and that they feel friendships this way and that it connects them in some way. And I can't just feel that. I'm sorry that I can't just feel that. I can't just I can try to be in a situation with you and pretend like the thing that you're trying to do to bring us closer together doesn't make me feel like I'm farther away from you. But I do feel farther away from you. I feel pushed away by this type of behavior because it's not a behavior I give a shit about. And it's a problem for me because I am reactive. It wasn't until like I was near like the second to last year in college where like a person literally said it to me that like the reason people do it is because you react to it. And I did. And as an adult, I became less and less reactive to it, to where I would either try to control my reaction and in best case scenarios only get given any type of affirming reaction if it was a person that I liked, and b was behavior I could tolerate to an extent. Like I was in an improv group in Cleveland that I'm not going to say the name of, but it was a very, the culture and the energy was toxically bro-ish. And like there was a whole attitude. Like when I got there, people used to do nut slaps. And like the thing is, if you I will not stand for that. Ain't nobody, like I made sure to always position myself socially in a way that people knew that I wasn't gonna fucking stand for getting slapped in the dick. I wouldn't make a big deal. I never made a big deal about it, but I made it clear. And if I felt like it was coming, bam, I'd block it, and they would not appreciate that because I'm a fucking black belt. And I'm not trying to hurt anybody, but if you try to hit me in the dick and I block you, it's not gonna be comfortable for you. Because your force is going to get stopped and you're going to feel that.
Like we were literally out in the hot sun for 16 hours at a stretch, and it was rather mind-numbing work and somewhat physically demanding.
Prison culture is about domination. Like that's why it's weird to me that he would even like, can he not connect the dots with the fact of, in his own words, they had been in prison, and prison culture is very hierarchical, and there is very like, it's very survival of the fittest, might makes right type of mentality. And he's fucking channeling this type of a downward hierarchical abuse into, he's trying to make it sound positive.
The peanut pounding wasn't particularly difficult, but the spike pounding was, and you need some camaraderie in those positions so that your life is rendered maybe not just tolerable, but even enjoyable.
Okay, I'll give him that one. I'm going to give him that one. But my problem is that I would not feel camaraderie with those people. Nothing that you're describing is camaraderie to me. That's just people sucking. That's just like garbage ass people. Like that's what I'm hearing. I'm just hearing a lot about people who I was like, who I wouldn't want to work with, who I wouldn't want to deal with, who I just flat out wouldn't like. Now, that's not entirely fair. These concepts are currently devoid of context. It's possible that if I met the people in the crew, I might like one or two of them enough to let them have that interaction with me. Although I'm not going to lie, it might depend on what their initial test of me is and how it goes.
In principle. And so you're playing a multi-dimensional game, and if you're willing to subjugate yourself to that discipline, then you learn how to play that game, and if you get good at that, then that's a portable skill.
Will the lack of a red wave during the midterms lead to more?
It is a skill to take abuse, I guess.
Reckless spending by a more emboldened administration, higher taxes, deeper inflation? If you're unsure how the next 2 years will unfold,
he's shilling gold. Why are conservatives so predictable?
And so you might ask yourself, well, what are you doing when you work as hard as you possibly can on at least one thing? Is that you're molding yourself into someone who can aim at something and move forward with efficiency and skill. And maybe if you're doing that extraordinarily well, you're not only molding yourself into someone who can aim.
So here's the thing. My father was a messing with you kind of person. My father was a messing with you kind of person. Is a messing with you kind of person. So I grew up with someone messing with me. And the thing about people who are messing with you kind of people is that they're either doing it as a learned behavior or they lack severe self-awareness. I mean, I'm not going to get into the wild inconsistencies in my father's personality and beliefs and how they connect to how annoying I find it when he messes with me. Is this possibly relate? Now, the question is, are my problems with my father because he messed with me, or are my problems with my father because he was a messing with you kind of person and could never learn to stop fucking messing with me? That sounded overly aggressive. Me and my father have a fine relationship now that we don't live together. Love you, Dad. No, I really do. That sounded more sarcastic than it was supposed to. I really do love my dad. I just, I prefer him in small doses. I prefer to microdose my father. That's what I'm saying. Like, I prefer to microdose my experiences with my father. That's because I love him and I got to put up with some of his messing with me. And I just hit my limits with him very fast. But I do love him. But my point is did my father traumatize me into not being able to respond to this type of behavior, or was I always going to feel this way about this type of behavior and the conflict came from that way? I don't know. I actually don't know if it'd be possible for me to remember the key incident of having my father in my life that jump started the moment, or if it started off from my end of not being able to understand what he was doing. Hard to say. Chicken or the egg? Which one came first?
Aim at something and move towards it with efficiency and skill, but you can do that at the same time that you're helping other people around you do that. Right? So you can think about this. Imagine you're a good athlete on a team, and you might say, well, what does it mean to be a good athlete? And you might say, well, I'm a soccer player, a football player, and I'm great I'm a top scorer. And you might say, well, that's enough to make you a great athlete. And the truth is that's actually not enough to make you a great athlete, because you need to have the skill, whatever the skill might be. And high-level skill is, of course, extremely desirable in relationship to the goal. But you also have to be a good, let's say, a good sport. And that's a rather trivial description. Okay,
okay, I think I see where he's going with this. And if he is going with there, where I think he's going with this, I just want to state that last statement right there about being a good sport. Being so like in my mind, they're not being good sports. If that's how you bond with people, you're not a good sport. If you do a sport and the other guy wins and then he's a dick about it, that's still not being a good sport. Like he's literally he's prescribing being a good sport specifically to the victim position. He is ascribing it to the victim position. Only the victim has to be a good sport because, well, you know, the world's full of assholes. Yeah, but like, why should we incentivize asshole behavior? Like, that's the thing. Because, like, literally, this commercial, and I wasn't gonna keep it in and what there was of it before in the editing, but maybe now I will. Wait, did I get any of that on video? I may not have, but there was a commercial before this where it was some guy talking about how you got to stand up to woke revolutions, which is funny because like I think that being a dick to people as a social development, I kind of want to stand up to that. I kind of feel like, you know, maybe the world would be a better place if people didn't fuck with each other, you know? Like, aren't you, like, if you're a libertarian, that's supposed to be your whole political fucking belief system. And yet libertarians think it's hilarious to fuck with people. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Like making fun of celebrities and concepts and ideas, I think that's cool as shit. But like fucking with individuals who, I mean, sometimes like famous individuals need some public pressure because they have power. Like that's actually why people who have power and money need a certain level of social pressure. Okay, I'm sorry, but if you're at the top, you should be having some fucking social pressure on you because you are wielding influence like any politician. And the thing about politicians is we all know who the politicians are. We don't all know who the billionaires are.
For something that's actually quite a profound moral.
I should say we don't know who all the billionaires are. Like we know who some of them are.
Accomplishment. So if you're not only a highly skilled athlete in the technical sense, but you're a good sport, it means that while you practice your skill, whatever that is, you also elevate the ability of all your teammates to make their skill manifest and also to improve their skill. And you do that simultaneously, right? And that's a high level of athletic ethos, is you're good at.
I can't tell if he is taking this in a wildly different direction than I expected, or if he has lost his own train of thought here.
Athlete and you're a good team player, and the union of those two things might make you something approximating a good person.
The thing is, I'm a really good team player, actually. I just fucking don't like people.
And that's transportable. I think part of the reason that we admire sports heroes, when they're sports heroes in the truest sense, is because if they are.
The reason I'm confused is because what he's saying is not the definition of good sportsmanship. I'm almost 100% certain. Like, being a good sport typically refers to your behavior as an athlete. And, like, the point, a good sport is someone who's not a dick to the team that lost. So I mean, you can be a bad sport and failure in losing too. I'm not like good sportsmanship is about how honorable you are in what you are doing. What the fuck?
Ritual.
I'll try. To my one fan who says that I swear too much, look, I can't promise you anything, but I will try to swear a little bit less. Okay? But you know, Jordan Peterson, he brings it the F out of you. You know what I'm saying? If you don't know me in real life, you've probably picked up at some point that my accent is the accent of my normal voice is wildly all over the place.
Models of emulation in relationship to the development of high-level skill, and they're also admirable team players in the highest sense, then they actually are.
Okay, he mentioned the honorable sense part, but he seems to I don't know, I feel like it's a footnote to the other point.
Something approximating admirable citizens in the truest sense. And
if they have the honorable thing,
that pattern of skilled, productive, generous cooperation is actually a model that you can extract out of
which you can do without abuse. You can build that without abuse. You can build friendships without being a dick. People don't like it because being a dick is a defense mechanism. When you're being a dick, you already have the shields up and you're trying to force other people to lower theirs. Okay? Being a dick sucks. And I say that as a person who's just kind of a dick. I'm not trying to be, is the thing. Sometimes I take the joke too far, which is the other reason I hate it, is because I feel like I take it too far. I don't know.
Multiple games, and it's a good model to emulate. And that's something that isn't arbitrary, by the way. And so that also.
I feel like I missed what part he said wasn't arbitrary. Hold on.
In the truest sense, and that pattern of skilled, productive, generous cooperation is actually a model that you can extract out of multiple games, and it's a good model to emulate. And that's something that isn't arbitrary, by the way. And so that.
Did he just, what did he even just fucking say? Like, is he, like, it sounded like what he just said is, it is a fact that you should learn from models that work. That's what it sounds like he just said. Like, if I'm understanding him correctly, that's what he's referring to there. But like, why?
That also answers a question that I posed earlier in relationship to nihilism and belief. It's like, well,
it's always hilarious to me that this guy, like, if you've ever looked at the lists of philosophers that he seems to be into, and then you like listen to his arguments, and you're like, there's a part of you that is like, is Jordan Peterson secretly a nihilist who's selling positivity to other people because he knows that it works? Like, because sometimes that's what it sounds like. Like, what kind of super positive, like, what kind of positive person lists Nietzsche as one of their fundamental favorite as one of their favorite philosophers? Like, when I read that about him, I had to do a double take because my brain was like, that doesn't read. Because Nietzsche was a dick. I don't know if you've ever read Nietzsche, but like, Nietzsche hated poor people, liked rich and powerful people, which is ironic because he was neither of those things. He was very undereducated, poor. He wanted so much to be a big, strong man. Nietzsche wanted, I mean, this is actually what makes sense about Nietzsche with Jordan Peterson, but philosophically, Nietzsche was like, fuck people. Fuck the church. Fuck anything that's not power. I mean, fuck anything that isn't power to yourself. Nietzsche probably wouldn't have let people fuck with him, is what I'm saying. Although Nietzsche also might not have had much of a choice because Nietzsche was not physically imposing. Nietzsche wanted to be a soldier. He wanted it so bad. But when he joined the military, the only job that he was physically fit enough to do was to drive around the corpse wagon.
Well, what should be foundational? And the answer might be something like practice in developing the capacity for skilled movement forward in a manner that simultaneously encourages the others that you're cooperating with to do precisely the same thing. And that's not some arbitrary ethos. It's not arbitrary, because if that doesn't happen, then nothing flourishes.
Okay, so what I no, I think this is just him saying that like people being dicks is good for society because it gets you to fall in line with other people. That's what it sounds like he's saying.
And if it does happen, then everything flourishes. And it's also not relativistic in some sense, because you have to do that no matter what you're doing. No matter what it is that you're doing, if you do that well, you're doing whatever it is you're doing well.
Like, my problem here is just going to keep coming back to this, that like you can bond with people without this. You can bond with people without this. Like the concept that this type of interaction with other human beings of hazing and mild bullying, like fuck it. Like fuck it. You know what? I like what the fuck? It's not good for anything. It's just dickish. And it trains you to be a dick. Like it encourages, this type of system encourages things like abuse and being a dick. Why do you think hazing rituals at colleges and fucking uh cheerleader squads and football teams occasionally get real fucked up? Is because if you have a person in your group who doesn't have a limit on how degrading something they are willing to do to another person is, if there's even worse, if there's some type of one-upmanship in coming up with more degrading ways to make fun of people, that shit can spiral wildly out of control. And like so many universities and sports teams have gotten in trouble for it. And sometimes people have fucking died. So I just want to point out that that's the kind of shit Jordan Peterson right now is endorsing in this video. What the fuck does this have to do with the nobility of the working class?
In fact, that's really in some sense how you would define well. And you know that's true. You know, you'll be at home and maybe you get a plumber to come over, or an electrician, somebody who's skilled in the working class technical sense, and they do a good job, and that's a great relief, especially, let's say, if it's a plumbing problem, because you really need your plumbing fixed. It's not optional. Well, you know what the options are. They're not great. And so it's really important to be a good plumber. And then you think, well, what makes a good plumber? And one is obviously technical skill, the man or the woman.
How did we get to this point? Like, maybe I'm a little lost here. Like, what is he actually trying? Like, because I just did that whole thing about his abuse and his endorsement of toxic culture, but like as he's going on here, I am now less certain of what point he's trying to make. Maybe he'll bring it back around. Let's follow it, see where it goes.
Generally, the man, when it's plumbing, knows what he's doing, and he does it efficiently. But that isn't all. If he's a really good plumber, well, he tells you what he's going to do, so he can communicate what he's going to do. He can tell you, he can identify the problem. So he's a good diagnostician. He can tell you what he's going to do. He can tell you how much what he's going to do will cost you. Then he does it. That's what it costs.
Just gonna say this here, but being a direct and clear communicator, which is great, I love that, is pretty much the opposite of the behavior he was describing previously. Like that's how to not be a dick. Now, some people, I mean, you can take that to a point where you're too blunt, and that's kind of being a dick. But like generally speaking, giving it to people straight implies the opposite of wanting to fuck with you. It is literally the opposite of fucking with you. I don't. It's a. Let's see what maybe he just hasn't gotten to the point yet.
Right. So there's an honesty in interpersonal transaction that goes along with the diagnostic accuracy and the skill, and that's reflective of a very deep ethical orientation. And so to be a really good plumber, then you have to be highly skilled, but you have to be a clear and honest communicator. and you have to play fair in the most fundamental sense. And if you, and then
What?
you might say he's got, imagine he has some employees with him, and you might also, maybe you're deciding if you want to have the plumber come back if you have problems in the future. And so one of the things you're going to do is check out how he interacts with his subordinates, and if he's someone who's teaching them, because you can watch that, and doing that in a fair manner and not talking down to them and not manipulating them and not tyrannizing over them, and is also able to do that in a manner that's sort of civilized so that you don't feel like it's an imposition to have.
What you're describing is the opposite of the behavior you were describing before. The literal opposite. These are literally the opposite things. Like, I don't, like, what the fuck is happening?
Them in your house because there's no psychological tension, you know, surrounding the enterprise. Then you think, well, he's a good boss, and he's done a really credible job, and he's very honest and reliable, and he solved the problem, and he did it on time.
The worst thing at any job is a boss who fucks with you. That is the worst. And it like, honestly, that's like a big deal. Like, most jobs I have ever worked at, bosses have rarely fucked with me, like, in that type of manner. I don't. It is much more common for people who are not, quote unquote, my superiors to do that. If a boss fucks with you, quit that fucking job. I would. Life is too short to work for people who fuck with you.
Time, and he didn't charge you any more than he had told you he would charge you, and it was a fair price. Like, that's pretty multi-dimensional space to manage simultaneously, right? That's a very sophisticated.
It's called giving people the facts. It's an important thing, but I'm not sure what is blowing his mind right here.
Mode of ethical conduct. It can't be just reduced to being a good plumber in the technical sense. It's being a good person who happens to be a plumber, and that is success in a microcosm that is truly reflective of society at a much broader level. And it's definitely the case, I think this is absolutely clear, that the integrity of our society depends in no small part on the minority of people, and often working class people, who do that sort of thing exceptionally well, right? They're the people who they build everything and they keep everything going.
Okay, I agree with all that. This video is about to end, and I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. The video just ended. There was.
That's one of the things that's really characteristic.
Nope. What the fuck? What the fuck? What? Okay, so I'm gonna break down what I just witnessed. So Jordan Peterson, he starts telling a story about how when he worked in construction, which is a very masculine type of job, and also which also, you know, furthers the whole, like, he is a person who had to change himself to try and fit in with a masculine world, which he tries to constantly posture himself into, even though he is incredibly effeminate. By the way, nothing wrong with being effeminate, but when you try to repress and posture this much, it's gross. He doesn't really acknowledge his feminine side, even though it's so on the surface. He's just constantly posturing. And you know what? I think maybe that helps, because I think he essentially, like, in his pro-masculinity war, what he really does is he sells the idea of posturing masculinity and trying to stop being so effeminate. And he's also, like, you know, evidence that it doesn't work. That you can talk about being hard your whole life and people can still see the effeminate side of you that you are desperately trying to run away from. That is my opinion of you, Jordan Peterson, who is probably not listening. Oh, I really want to get on that list of his. But so to recap what just happened in this video is he came out, he told his story about how, like, when he worked a working class job, the people he worked with were fucking assholes. And he said that was good, you know, like a fascist. And so they just would fuck with each other And it was great for bonding. And then he goes about, somehow that all leads up to a conversation about the ethical and honorable goodness of like a great plumber, and then describes a bunch of behaviors that are the opposite of being an abusive dick. You could argue that it's being a blunt dick, depending on your, delivery. But typically, direct and honest is what you would want from a plumber. So I don't know why it's not what you would want from making friends. I'm not seeing the connection of how you're getting from this behavior to the opposite behavior, Jordan. Like, what even was this speech? Jesus. Bizarre. That's not soy milk, by the way. That's 100% whole cow milk. Organic. Because for some reason, non-organic milk, if I drink more than a little bit of it, makes me want to puke. Don't know what that's about. All right. Well, this was something. This was what that something is. Honestly, not sure. Wait a minute. Hold on. Maybe hold on. There's a caption. Where is it? Okay. Let's see here. Here's this exclusive look at Jordan's Perth stop. Is that a word I'm not familiar with, or is it a typo? Perth stop in the Beyond Order tour. It looks like it's a typo. Beyond Order tour. No shade there, but you do have like 6 million subscribers, Jordan Peterson. The best employees or bosses are multidimensional. In other words, they have technical skills as much as social and negotiating skills. As a result, these traits improve overall life as much as they do work life. Having an emotion, the emotional barrier of being a dick isn't great for communication, and it doesn't make you multidimensional. It makes you a dick. And some people are naturally dicks, and other people are being dicks on purpose. And it's hard to tell which is which, to be honest. You can't assume that shit. But if reading that description clears up the premise in any way for me, I gotta be honest, Jordan. Do you have friends? Do you have any friends? I'm asking you, this is a serious question. Because I don't think you do. Like, I don't know if you actually are close with anyone. You've even talked about how your wife makes fun of you. I think you're kind of a sub bitch, man. And I mean a submissive bitch. And this whole thing where you're posturing masculinity, it's fake. I don't think you're lying to the people, though, to be clear. I think you're lying to you. I think the whole reason that you believe that people should be talked out of their feminine sides is because you're desperately running from your feminine side. And if like and if you're not running from your feminine side, Jordan Peterson, then I challenge you to a mixed martial arts combat in the octagon. Well, maybe it won't be in the octagon. I think that's trademark. But yeah, no, I think I would fight. I think I would beat the hell out of you in a fight, man. And I don't challenge people to fights to be a dick, but like, if you really got that sense of masculinity in you, then you won't be able to resist this challenge of violence. By the way, I don't think violence is good. But like I said, I may have mentioned before, I am trained black belt. And I am prepared to fight you. Because I think it'll show up your hypocrisy. But also, I am confident even with having a replaced knee, which, I'm giving you a step up there by telling you that weak point. Pretty sure I could take you. I think you're a lot taller than me too, and I'm fairly confident I could take you. All right. Well, thank you for listening to the podcast. If you've enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe or follow or whatever they call it, wherever you're getting this. And also be sure to check out my YouTube channel now, where I'm putting slowly but surely building a channel there, putting up the content. Make sure you like and subscribe there. I'm starting to making season-based playlists. At some point I'll chop up small clips and put them up there too. I'm working on it like I'm working on myself every day. And yeah. Check that stuff out. Also, to promote this, I am in another currently airing fictional podcast here on Spotify, hopefully coming to YouTube at some point in the future, called Total Nuisance, with Joe, or the Joe Nuisance Show. Actually, what is the official title? Okay. All right. So, like I was saying, I am currently involved with a cool audio podcast deal. I personally am part of the Joe Nuisance podcast, airing here on Spotify. New episodes every Tuesday. Not exactly sure what time they drop that Tuesday, but new episodes every Tuesday. It's a parody show. This is part of a special program with the nonprofit Center for Applied Drama and Autism, in a special program called the Inclusive Chatter Network, which is also funded with some money from the Ohio Arts Council. And you can check out the website Center for Applied Drama and Autism to learn more about the organization. But it also will be featuring shows like Hug and a Mug, which is an LGBTQIA plus ensemble piece from Q Theater. Another podcast feature called Tool Training Workshop, which is a workshop video series taught by someone named Kathlena Thorpe, who apparently is an MFA candidate at Kent State University. Dinner with Sammy J, which is an absurdist look at contemporary society. Autism and actually, I'm not sure if I think it's pronounced autism and is autism it stands for a neurological disorder. It's a series of personal video essays by Vanquish Hudson about the axis of autism and other topics. And another podcast called Well, That's Awkward is a podcast hosted by former CADA student turned teacher Jordan Ewell about facing the inevitable uncomfortable moments of our lives so we may all feel less alone in awkward moments we face every day. And a show called The Phoenix King, which is an animated YouTube series, which will have, I'm not sure if we'll have the first episode will appear on, I'm not sure how many episodes of that, but I know the first episode will premiere May 6th on the Inclusive Chatter Network. So do check that out. Those shows are all on Spotify. I mean, they haven't all premiered yet, but do check that out. And to also check out the Center for Applied Drama and Autism. Oh, side note, Well, That's Awkward is hosted by Jordan Ewell, who if you've been listening to me for a while, you may remember the episode where I talked to him. Very funny guy, comedian, currently living in Chicago. But the Inclusive Chatter Network is a program to highlight neurodiverse actors and creators. My program, we bring on various people to either who are neurodiverse or have worked in the neurodiverse field, and we put on a parody podcast, making fun of. I don't think you have to think that too hard about who we're making fun of. It's called the Joe Nuisance Podcast. But yeah, I hope you check that stuff out as well. All right. Thank you for listening. And this punch is for all the men whose minds you've brainwashed. And this is for your casual support of fascism. Oh, please, Batman, I've had enough. No. And this one is for the really bad therapy you gave Bruce Wayne. That guy's never going to get better now. Ah!